Yep, this is the goal. Create a 100 panel webcomic from scratch in 6 months. And in this video I'm going to be starting off with harmonizing my cast colors. Because, as you can see, I had done colors for the previous 2 characters in my last video. And I had this third one left, Clarice. And she is from a wealthy family, and I needed to show that with the colors and the drapery. So I obviously went to gold, because gold is just like the universal color of wealth. Even though, you know, money can't buy you everything. But gold is that visual color of, well, gold. So, yeah, that's worth something. Until the apocalypse comes, and then water will be more precious than gold. Okay, but I'm getting off track. So anyway, I'm using some royalty type colors. I didn't go for red because red is too high energy, and she's supposed to be a very low energy character, very lazy. So I stayed away from red and went more towards cranberry. And to me, the low energy colors are the ones that don't have a lot of high contrast, and they don't have like vibrancy to them. So at first I was doing like more yellowish skin tone, yellowish hair, or undertones, you know, so she kind of matched that, or not matched, but kind of blended into her gold collar. But I wasn't really loving it, so I think eventually I went for a deeper red in her hair to, it kind of stand out, so you at least looked at her face, because before when she was yellow, you didn't really look at her face, you looked more at the jewel on her neck piece there. So I wanted to make sure you looked at her face, so I had to have some kind of contrast and saturation there. The only problem was that she was so saturated and had more colors going on in her outfit that the other 2 looked pretty blah in comparison and were not harmonizing at all. So first I worked on Kess here in the green and brown. And she is a former thief and kind of like bandit, kind of Robin Hood-y type character. So she's in greens and browns, even though it doesn't really match her personality. She's more of a hothead, and so that's just going to be something that I have to work against, because it's very easy to just make, you know, angry characters red and calm characters blue, but you know, you shouldn't limit yourself to that. And so I'm taking it as a challenge to use a character who has calm clothing and give her a personality that works against that. But speaking of calm colors and calm personalities, this character, Socorro, she got shifted to blue because before she was purple, and the purples were a little too similar to Clarice, and I wanted very distinct colors from my inspiration from the Fire Emblem characters, which have very distinct colors. So I went back and shifted her more towards blue, and then added more yellow in her jewel on her neck piece there, and picked a yellower kind of off-white for her shirt and such, so that she'd have that blue and yellow kind of working off one another. Kess I still wasn't happy with because her cloak was so saturated green and just didn't match her personality, so I decided to turn it brown and then just give a little bit of color to her clothing instead, and thought that might work okay. This is my panel 1 where the 3 of them are getting attacked by little rock spider tick things. And I'd put a gradient in the background, but I didn't want it to look like these rocks were see-through, so I just sampled a color and then I would color in an entire section of rock so that I'd still get the effect of atmospheric perspective of things getting lighter and fainter in the background, but, you know, not with just the gradient making them look see-through. Now I'm about to just go through and do a lot of flat colors, and it'll be super boring if I'm just like describing what is happening on screen, because obviously I'm just coloring in her hair and accidentally coloring in her collar and coloring in her teeth. I mean, that's, yeah, super boring. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what is going on in my head on the creator side of things, because I feel like us artists, we all go through fears and doubts. So last night I was washing dishes, had a wave of panic that this comic is going to fail, and it's going to fail hard, because I'm not very passionate about it. And you hear all the time about, you know, artists who, like, they die if they can't draw every day, you know, and they're just so passionate about their work and they love what they do, and, you know, etc., etc. And all throughout art school, all of my teachers were like, if you don't love it, if you don't love drawing, if you don't have this huge passion for drawing, you shouldn't be doing it for a living because it's, demanding field of work, and stuff like that. So of course then when I'm not feeling 100% like passionate and excited about my work, I start to panic that, maybe I should change to something else, and maybe I should change my stories, change my characters, do whatever. And that, I think, is a trap that I've fallen into a lot in the past decade, because anytime I had an idea I was excited about, anytime I came to a place that had problems and would take away my passion for it and my excitement for it, then I'd start over on a different project that I had, fresh energy and excitement for. So that's why I counted up, before I started recording this, all of the comics that I had started but did not finish in the last 15 years or something like that. And it came up to 12. That's almost a comic a year that I started and then failed to complete or just stopped. And that's a lot, when you think about it, that if I were, I don't know, a baker, a plumber, or whatever, and I had started a year-long project and then stopped pretty much every year, I'd be getting some pretty bad reviews on Yelp, I'm sure. If you just think of that in any other industry, that's not a great track record. And I'd like to fix that. So even though I'm not totally super excited and in love with my characters and the story, because there is no story yet, I gotta rewrite it because of previously mentioned errors on my part when I was developing the story and the characters. It's teaching me that you're not going to love everything that you create at all moments during the day or during the process, You're not going to be so in love with everything that you make all the time. That's what I'm getting at. And so if you abandon it in that kind of moment of weakness, I feel like that's bad, because obviously it has not worked for me to abandon these projects and then try something new and try something new. And I feel like I would probably learn a lot more if I would just finish things. Because if you think about it, I'm never going to know how to finish a comic unless I finish a comic. I'm never going to get better at whatever speech balloon placement unless I actually do it. And I think there's a big difference between practicing the principles and actually doing it. Because I've been I've been teaching the principles of comic making in my art classes, for years, and that never stopped. But I never made my own comic, and I think there's a big difference there between creating an actual comic or just teaching about how to make a comic. So that's why I really think it's important that I finish this, and just for my own personal development, and even if it's, not a bestseller, because it's not going to be sold anyway, even if it's not very popular, I should say, I have to look at it as it's, a baby step in my growth and my artistic journey. Yes. So that's amazing, right? So yeah, just got a little deep there for a second, but hopefully next week will lighten up, so I will see you then.